Hi, are you the type of player that when you get a new racket, you have to put head tape on the entire bumper guard because you don't want to scratch it, even though it has a bumper guard? Or you're a player that's been using a frame for a while and have been wearing down the bumper guard in certain areas, maybe exposing some of the string and maybe wearing down some part of the frame. Or maybe you're a player that has a frame that's so worn down that you can see the frame through the bumper guard, like this one, or possibly a frame that has a bumper guard that's actually sticking up. If you're a player that has one of these three types of frames and would like to learn how to use head protection tape, I have 3 applications that I'll share with you. All right, we're staying inside. All right, so before we get started, I'll show you how to prepare the head protection tape. There's a couple of brands that work really well. Actually, the head brand head protection tape works really well. It has, it comes in a roll, so it makes it really convenient when you're trying to do the whole bumper guard, because then you can measure off what you need exactly and then just cut it off. The other brand is the Babolat brand, and it looks really like the same product, really, because it has the same width. And the only thing about the Babolat, it comes in 19.5 inch strips, and you get 5 of them. The only thing I don't like about it, it does come pre-cut in 5 strips, but it has this coil memory. I mean, so the next step is, what you're gonna be doing is, I'm gonna be cutting the head tape into 3 strips. So at 1.25 inches, you can basically measure 3/8 of an inch. So you would measure 3/8, and then you can get 3 strips out of, let's say, one of these Babolat ones. But if you're working with the Babolat tape, I would definitely recommend you taping it down to the table because of the fact that it wants to curl up on you. Whereas the head tape remains fairly straight, so you shouldn't have a problem trying to, measure it off, and at 3/8 and 3/8. And then once you get your 3 strips, then I'll show you in the applications how you're gonna use them. The other thing is, whenever you have extra, you always want to save your extras, because again, that'll be useful for certain types of applications. And then for all the applications, you want to make sure that you're always cleaning your bumper guard or wherever you're going to apply. So just make sure you use alcohol, and I like the 91% isopropyl alcohol. So yeah, just make sure that you clean it really well, because you want to make sure that the surface is going to be clean and that the tape will stick on there. This first application is called full protection application. I would only recommend these for rackets that have a very shallow groove in the bumper guard. So this is a fairly new Babolat Pure Drive. And if you're familiar with this frame, at least this generation, the grommet, I mean, brand new, it's just really shallow. So, I mean, you can almost, well, I already put the tape on there, but let me just show you what I did here. Basically, I got 2 of those strips that I mentioned earlier, and I went the full length of the bumper guard. I just ended it right at the end of the bumper guard. You don't really need the tape in the middle. If you can build up the sides like as if it's an additional bumper guard, then I think you're really accomplishing what you need to do there to protect the strings and the frame. So anyway, I'm gonna peel this back because I wanted to show you something else. What I did is, when I put this tape on, you'll see how I actually covered that blue area. That's another design flaw, I think, in this particular bumper guard, is that it really doesn't go the entire width of the frame at the top. So it really doesn't protect the frame at all. Yeah, so I'm not sure what their thinking was in that. But anyway, I went ahead and just did the full protection on this particular bumper guard. Before I get into the next application, I did want to mention on the previous racket that I did on that Pure Drive, I only would recommend it for rackets that really have a shallow groove, like I mentioned. The reason why is that when you're adding this much head tape to the head, it's actually adding a lot of weight. You don't realize it, but a full strip, the full entire strip weighs about 6 grams. So if you weigh it, well, I'll just do it just to make sure, and yeah, it's right at 6. It's comparable to a 12-inch length of half-inch lead tape. So yeah, right at 6. So that's a lot of weight you're actually adding to the head, especially since it's at 12 o'clock. So what I did by not using the entire head tape and cutting it out so that I'm only using, I guess, 2/3 of it, I only added 4 grams instead. The swing weight, though, it still brought it up to about 310. It started at 302 and it brought it up to 310. So I think if I used the entire width of it, it probably would have been over 12 units. I think the average player can probably tell when it's about 10 units. And if you're really sensitive, maybe you can tell when it's 5 units of difference. So again, I just try to minimize as much as possible the amount of weight that I'm adding to the head, but yet still have the, in this case, full protection. All right, so let's get into the next one. It's called Preventive application. So I have this other racket here. Now, even though this is an old racket, the bumper guard design itself is a lot better than the previous one. So you can see that it actually covers the entire beam width. The only problem area is right at the 10 and 2 o'clock area. So I'll bring this up, and you can actually see a little bit of the string protruding out past the bumper guard, and that would be on both sides right there. So what I'm gonna do in this application is just target the problem area. So what I have is these extra strips that I mentioned that I saved. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab one of these, and basically I'm gonna just bring the frame over to and check out where I need to address this, the problem area. I'm trying to make sure that I actually just put head tape in that area. So what I did is I located it. I already marked it right here. So what I would do is I would just cut it, and I would cut 4 of these pieces like that. So after I cut it, I'm actually gonna double layer this because I want, the maximum protection in that one area. Again, the rest of the bumper guard is in pretty good shape, so I'm not too concerned about that. Okay, but on the second layer, I already have some here. So this is the first layer. It's about 2 inches in length. But on the second layer, you'll notice that it's a little bit longer, maybe about 1/8 of an inch over the other one. And the reason for that is that I think it'll stay on better when it's tapered versus having both head tape lengths at the same length. So anyway, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and locate the area that I need to apply this to. It's again right at the 10 and 2 o'clock area, and then I'm just gonna run this along the bumper guard, and there's no overlapping, no like the Babolat that I had to go over because this is pretty well protected. So I already pre-cut these 4 pieces that I need to apply. But I'm gonna go ahead and when I get to the other side, I'm gonna just locate the same location. In one of my previous videos, I had a one-sided player and a two-sided player. It looks like this player is a two-sided player because the wear is pretty even on both sides. So I got my third piece of tape here. Now this head tape is very durable, so that's why I like the this Babolat brand. And get it right there. So again, by having that second layer be a little bit longer, I think it keeps this edge right here down a little better, because if I had cut it at the same length, it does tend to kind of lift up a little bit easier than compared to just having one layer on that edge. All right, so, oh, I forgot to tell you that I was gonna actually take the swing weight prior to this, but I actually did. So it started off at 336 before the head tape, before this application. And we'll see what it is now after applying just in these corners. And what the difference is. So we'll go ahead and do the swing weight. And it's at 341. So we went up 5 units, and I think that's pretty acceptable as far as increasing the swing weight. And again, we're just only having these areas protected because the rest of the bumper is good. This one, again, has a nice deep groove here, so I think this will be good for this particular situation. Finally, we have the repair application. Now this would be done for rackets that have a lot of wear through the bumper guard. You can see like this one is really worn out. You never want the wear to be to a point where the frame is starting to show the inner part of the frame where it's really weak. So this one's still pretty strong, but you can see how it wore through the bumper guard. And if you compare this side, you don't see that much wear. So this player is definitely a one-sided player. So what you want to look for though is on this bumper guard, you'll notice that on this end, it's pretty smooth if you run your finger across it. But on this side, my finger is getting caught on this side that's lifting a little bit. And what I want to do is I want to actually cut that off at an angle and make it so it's somewhat tapered like this side or angle. So I'm going to go ahead and get my cutters and just try and cut a tapered edge on it. So now you can see it has like an angle cut over there. So that'll actually make it so it's less chances of getting caught on anything. I noticed that also over here in the middle there's something sticking out. So I want to just make sure I cut that off too. So there's nothing that's going to catch on clothing or fingers or anything that might be touching that area. All right, there's a rough edge over here too, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off right. Yeah, just by running your finger along it, you can figure out what you should be cutting off. So yeah, it's nice and smooth now. So, all right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna address just this area. And what I'll do is use one of those extra strips that you saved. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna measure so that it covers the entire length of that worn area. But I'm actually gonna stick this underneath the bumper guard. I'm gonna put 2 layers, but so this one's gonna go underneath. And I'll cut this and then show you what I did with yeah, you want to make sure you have a sharp scissors. So I got that. So what I did is I basically cut it so it reached the entire gap, but it's gonna go under the bumper guard. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to sneak under there I have to pry it up and get one end in first. So I'm not gonna strip off the whole backing. And then you have it all, and you're gonna actually try to lift the bumper guard on one side first. And then you're just gonna get that head tape under there. So this bumper guard is actually gonna hold this first layer in because it's pressing down on it. All right, so I got that first side in right there. And what I'm gonna do is get the other side tucked under there too. So this will run along the edge of the frame, and I'm gonna get that right under there. Make sure it's lying flat under there. All right, so that's what the first layer looks like right there. And the reason why I want to go with 2 layers is that because this is a specific problem area, I think having 2 layers is really good protection for this, especially if it's a frame that has discontinued grommets, and you want to make sure that they can make this last as long as possible, especially if they're married to the frame and they don't want to get a new one. All right, so on the next one, yeah, you just go ahead and get another strip, and you can pretty much match up the length of the head tape to the previous layer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and match it. And sometimes with bumper guards that are worn to this point, they can actually cause a buzzing sound, like when you hit it on the top of the frame or in the sweet spot when you're hitting the ball. It can sometimes cause a buzzing sound. So by securing these ends down, you'll eliminate that buzzing sound a lot of times. So, all right, so I went ahead and cut the end, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this on top of the bumper guard. So it's gonna be that second layer of protection. And I'm just gonna go ahead and match it right here. And it looks like that. So, well, you can see it from this side right there. All right, so as the person uses the racket, there is going to be the wearing of this first layer. So I would just go ahead and have that player replace it or replace it for them. But the bottom layer, if it gets really bad, you would have to replace it. But hopefully you'll just be replacing the top periodically. So this is the repair application. I learned the applications that I shared with you today through trial and error over the years. So I hope you found it helpful. Thanks for watching. Happy hitting, and let your strings play.